Hey, everybody. Hey, Morgan Wright. I'm the CEO and founder of the National Center for Open and Unsolved Cases. We're just coming in here just a few minutes early. We wanted to let people come on board, just see where you guys are from. We have got over 300 people registered for this. We've already got 70 or so already in the chat. So, but I just wanted to just make sure we were live. You guys could see and hear everything. Okay. It looks like you can. We've got a full slate of stuff that we're going to do for you today. Everything from talking to you, giving a project overview, as we said in the agenda, what the project expectations are. Biggest thing, I'm going to introduce the team to you, give out some shouts. We're going to talk about some key things about what the platform is and what it isn't. Here's a quick thing, though. Many of you are law enforcement, and you're going to find that your messaging policies may not allow you to use the Q&A or maybe not even the chat. So we prefer that you use the Q&A for any questions, but if you can't use Q&A, throw it into the chat. And if your agency doesn't trust you to say anything in public, then send me an email at info, or actually send it to Morgan at openunsolved.org. What we'll do is we'll compile all the questions together. We'll get everything together and get it back out to you. Hey, Kenny Gerald, there you are. A friend of mine runs the Aware Foundation. They do the Lord's work out here in Virginia looking for missing people. So we have a combination, folks, of law enforcement, nonprofits who are dedicated to helping solve crime, solve open and unsolved cases, and a lot of citizens. Well, Brandy's here. So Brandy has got a great project she runs down in Richmond called Reopen the Case. The reason your cameras and mics aren't working, I will tell you folks, this exceeds our biggest expectations. We thought we were only going to have 100 people registered. Both Johnny and I are members of the International Homicide Investigators Association. I contacted the executive director, sent a note out, and our list blew up. We have over 300 people registered. So I apologize for the webinar format. That's on me. We would have done a town hall a little bit better. So you will not, your cameras or mics don't work because we've shut those off. We've just got too many people. So put everything in the chat. Tim Wooten says, are you supposed to be seeing me right now? Yeah, I'm seeing my bright smiley face. You might have to click on in your view. You can also change it to the speaker view because we're going to get a lot of people. So if you change it to speaker view, you're going to see everything. Shami says, will this recording be made available for replay? It absolutely will. Once this thing is done and it gets processed and recorded, you're going to get a link and a follow-up, and it's going to say, hey, here's the recording. The other thing I'm going to do, too, is I'll get the recording and I'll put it onto YouTube so that there's always a public way for people can look at it. You never know with Microsoft after a while if it expires and stuff. So I'll get it out on our social media channel on YouTube. So that's what I'm going to do. Aaron Schrott from the Virginia Association of Chiefs of Police is here. I'll give shout outs to you guys here in just a little bit. By the way, guys, we had folks all the way from Australia, the Vic Police, if you're on. I have an award from the Vic Police right back there. If you see it on the wall, the award was for within 7 days. I was not either attacked by a dangerous animal nor bitten by anything poisonous. That's all I did. I managed to accomplish and get out of Australia unscathed. So, but I was just talking to somebody from the Dutch police in the Netherlands, Bogota, did some work on Plan Colombia. So we've had a worldwide. A lot of people are hopping in. We got everybody from California to New York to Florida to Texas and everywhere in between. Obviously, we're based, the Open Unsolved team, the National Center is based out of Virginia. And we met with the secretary, the brand new Secretary of Public Safety yesterday. And if you're on, sir, congratulations. He just got appointed to the job. And as we found out, we both knew out of the same people. So that's going to be good stuff. We're going to get ready. Okay, you guys ready? So here's what we're going to do. We're going to kick this off. I promised you we're going to start on time. We're going to end on time. So let me introduce the team that's on here with you today. So I'm Morgan Wright, CEO and founder. Let me throw it over really quick to the team. So Kelly, would you just tell everybody who you are and what you do?
Kelly Fox, I'm the Chief Financial Officer for the Center, and I'm sort of catching all administrative responsibilities very happily. So welcome to everybody here. I hope you enjoy the demo.
And anybody from the Department of Justice, especially the cops office, if you want to know if we're spending our money wisely, Kelly is a financial whiz. She's making sure we're done everything. My buddy, Johnny Capicelli.
Hey, everyone. I'm an employee with Chesapeake County Police. I've been here for approximately 35 years, roughly 30 as a sworn member. My background has mostly been in homicide and cold case investigations, and my administration asked me to be a part of building this platform, so I'm happy to be here.
Jonas Reynolds, not only is he formerly served in the U.S. Army, He's a great team member from the Whitfley team. Whitfley, Jake and Jonas are from Whitfley, the company that we're working with that are helping develop. So Jonas.
Hey, thanks, Morgan. Great to meet everybody. I'm the project manager on the Whitfley side. I get the pleasure of working between Morgan and Jake, and really excited to see everybody, Army veteran, electrical engineer, and technology specialist. Thanks a lot.
And right before we started, he said, should I put on a jacket? I said, no, you guys are the nerds. I don't want you in jackets. I want you looking like nerds. And speaking of the ultimate nerd, Jake.
Appreciate it. Hello, everyone. Jacob Kuski, also with the Whitfley team. And as Morgan put it, probably the nerdiest one of the call here. Working on the tech side, help develop what you're going to see here today. And I will also be walking you through a demo of the entire platform.
Yeah, and so real quickly, folks, this demo is high level. If you're one of our beta testers and you haven't replied to my email, reply to my email so we can get you a seat assigned. Real quickly, too, I want to thank, so Aaron is on from the Virginia Association of Chiefs of Police. The executive director is Dana Schrod. I have to tell you, we've been partnering for probably the last 20 years, and it is through their help that we've been able to get to where we are. Virginia Chiefs went to, at that time, Jeff Katz was the colonel of the Chesterfield County Police Department, and if he's on here, formal Colonel Jeff, he's teaching down at the FBI now. So they actually helped us get the grant. So guys, so that you know, we're grant funded by the Department of Justice, the cops office. We're working on our third grant right now. So I want to thank them. I want to thank Chesterfield County PD for you, those folks that are you on, like Johnny. You guys have been very instrumental in keeping this grounded, giving us real feedback, and letting us know what you as law enforcement need. But guys, this is also built for the public. Also want to thank the Department of Justice, the cops office. If you're listening out there, remember, Kelly runs the money. I don't touch anything, but she's making sure we spend every penny wisely. But as you guys see too, this is going to have national implications, not just regional, but national implications. Real quick, project expectations. Let me guys tell you real quick what HOLMES is and what it is not. HOLMES is a system for the public and police. Look, you can read our bios. You'll see part of my background, but I spent years working inside the Department of Justice, inside the intelligence community, inside DOD, and law enforcement. I'm also a member of the Association of Former Intelligence Officers. I've seen the dots miss being connected. I've worked on stuff post 9/11, post sniper. Folks, I'm telling you, every case that I've worked on out there and that I've been a part of and I've been able to dive into, we see where the dots. This is about collecting the dots so we can connect the dots to solve every case. So this is what it is. It's a system. And I was also on the community policing committee for the International Association of Chiefs of Police. Very much believe that the police and the public need to work together to solve problems. So you're going to find a way, if you're citizens out there, you're going to find a way that you're going to actually be able to get involved with this without getting in the way. But you're going to be able to get involved. You're going to be able to help law enforcement. We're going to talk about citizen case coordinators and targeting groups here in just a little bit. Let me tell you what HOLMES isn't. It is not a foiable system for you legal folks out there. You cannot subject us to freedom of information. We're a 501c3 registered nonprofit. We're just like a Crime Stoppers or Crime Solvers. We're not subject to government rules on FOIA. To get anything out of us, which I can tell you right now, we will fight tooth and nail, would require court orders and subpoenas. So our thing is to protect the privacy and the anonymity of people on the system, and anybody who leaves you a tip and a lead is absolute ironclad commitment that we're here to protect the privacy of those people. We're not a system of record. And this is a discussion Johnny and I have had too. We've had some of the legal minds ask us, well, what about due diligence? What about discovery and things like that? Folks, just so that you know, and we'll get into it later, you see when Jake does this. When a lead comes in, we don't get the lead. This is not, I worked on the show America's Most Wanted for a year and a half as a technical advisor. The leads would come into the show, they would figure out what to do with them and then farm them out. These leads come directly to the agency. We do not hold on to them. So it goes to the agency. You treat it just like any other lead that comes in, and you handle it like any other lead that comes in. So that's for you law enforcement folks. The leads come directly to you. There's no filtering of leads. We don't stop them, add content or value, and then send them on. The leads come directly to you. No CJIS information for you folks. No CJIS information. That's criminal justice information systems information. We need no CJIS information. If you can't put it into a press release, we can't use it. If it's a drive-by shooting and your tipster says, and you've recovered a bunch of shell casings, we can't put that in there. If your tipster says, hey, the guy used a 357, well, two problems. It's a revolver, not a semi-automatic. And unless they dump the brass, it's a 357 when the actual weapon was a 9mm. That's your holdback. You can use it to test the credibility of your witnesses, but we can't connect based on that. You're going to see how we connect, and it's based on locations in common. Right now, the only thing we collect from a citizen is the email. We use no personally identifiable information in this system to make connections, none at all. The only thing we need is an email because we have to notify you of a case connection or things like that, from us. So we only need an email. We don't need your name. We don't need a phone number. You can treat this just like you do Crime Stoppers. If you have information, you can do nothing, or you can leave a tip with your name or leave a tip without your name. Totally up to you to protect your privacy. I want to stress this, though, too, real quick. Yeah, we're doing good on time. It's content first, user second. We have to, when this system goes live at the end of August, we're going to start putting cases in. We've got everything that we've been working with the U.S. Marshals, getting requirements from them. And if you're on Maggie or the team out there, thank you very much. Getting requirements on what we need to do to help them go after fugitives. So we're collecting requirements right now. We've collected requirements from the Kansas Bureau of Investigation. I'm originally from Kansas Highway Patrol, State Trooper, all roads, all codes, for those of you who know. But we've been working with the KBI. So thank you to my friends out in Kansas. But we need to get cases in here first. Once we do, we'll start launching this regionally. But once we get about, I think, 500 cases in there, we're going to be able to launch this thing nationally because we'll have content. Imagine going into a store and there's nothing on the shelves. We don't want that to happen. Citizen volunteers, if you want to volunteer to help us, citizens can just be a participant and wait till you're connected to a case, or you can actually become a case coordinator and become part of a targeting group. I'll explain more of that later, but there's a way for you to get involved without getting in the way. And I know if Bobby Walker's on, and I don't know if you can tell me if he is or not, Kenny, but we met with him. He's out of Virginia. His father disappeared quite a few years ago. And I know one of the lessons that stuck with me is the families, and I've dealt with victims and victims of families, families of victims. They want, how do we help? How do we get involved without getting in the way? Because they can't get into your systems. They can't do your investigation. But how can I help drive more people to the system? How can I help generate more leads so you can solve my case? So we're going to do some of the things like that. Social media channels, we will be doing a lot more on social media, especially posting. We have a YouTube channel. We have an X channel, formerly known as Twitter, and a Facebook, just getting that all up and running. So don't expect great things yet, other than I've been posting some stuff on LinkedIn and Facebook and posting it to the YouTube channel. And then we'll be running some focus groups. So let me stop there. I know when I used to testify in court, they say you talk too fast. I say, no, you listen too slow. But I'm just trying to get through this stuff. So Johnny, why don't you pop on and give just a few minutes of your insight as a highly trained investigator with the Steel Trap Mine.
Appreciate that, Morgan. Thank you for allowing me to speak a few words. When I was asked to be a part of this, I'll be the first to admit I didn't know exactly what it entailed. And now, a couple of years into the development of it, I'm very excited about the possibilities of what we're building here. Just a little bit of thoughts here on the beginning of it. It made me start think about the evolution, if you will, of when DNA was introduced to law enforcement investigations back in the 70s and 80s. It was not created to supplant the importance of the use of fingerprinting and ballistic testing. It was an enhancement and a supplement to investigative tools. So when I started to look at what was being built here, I started to think about the things that have shown me provide success in investigations. And they're not hard prongs to think about. They're, surrounding yourself with good people, not necessarily people that think the same way as you, just people that have the same drive and the same determination to put team first. Secondly, building of relationships. I've been teaching that since my early days of teaching at the academy, the importance of doing that relationship building, not necessarily just with other law enforcement professionals or your coworkers. It needs to incorporate that citizen portion of it, as well as the incorporation of the victims' families that we ultimately answer to. And then the third thing is just the need to use all of the tools that are available to us in law enforcement. And this platform, as I see it, is, I believe, a revolutionary next step, if you will, in the enhancement of a lot of those programs that are already successful, the Crime Solvers, the Crime Stoppers. When our citizens and our police department collaborate on putting a system together and our citizens point us in a direction, it becomes our responsibility to follow up on those leads and document them in a manner that is protected and won't create any headaches for our prosecutors and when they have to deal with discovery and exculpatory issues. So those are just a couple of quick notes I wanted to make. I'm excited to be here, and just know I'm going to always make myself available for anybody that needs any help, that has any questions moving forward.
Hey, great. Guys, I'm going to show you real quick. Let me show you what the website's going to look like in the future. But Johnny hit upon some really key things. This is about how we as the police and the public work together. So let me share this with you real quick. You guys can see this. This is the future, right? This is what's coming out. We're going to be able to feature cases. So as I scroll down through this, you're going to see it's really nice colors. Don't worry. I don't know who Sarah Lavelle is, but apparently she's a problem because she's wanted for burglary and missing person and a fugitive. So don't worry about that. These are just placeholders, but we're going to be able to feature cards like this. Here's the thing. It's like going shopping. You think retail has a thing called loss leaders. It's psychology. It's they use one product to get you in the door, knowing that once they get you in there, you're going to spend money on a lot of other things. This is a no-cost platform. It doesn't cost you anything except what does it take to connect, right? So we will be featuring cases that we think will drive people to connect so that we can solve all of your cases. Biggest thing when I was working with AMW is they at any one time they had 2,000 cases up there that they could feature. They could only put 5 on television at a time. Folks, we're not here to pick winners and losers. Every case has an equal opportunity to be solved. Your case has just like featuring it on network television 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So we'll have things like the most wanted sections, and then we'll be talking about what does this do? How does it work? Look, folks, and I'm going to last thing here, I'm going to turn it over to Jonas. He's going to give a few words, and we're going to go to Jake. But here, what our mission really is. Our mission is to connect people to cases to cases, and cases to people to reduce time, cost, and complexity of your investigations. We have open and unsolved cases, right? Open cases still active. Either a suspect has been identified or isn't, or it's an open missing person. So you could have an open and solved case where you need the fugitive or the suspect, or you could have an open and unsolved case where you still have a body that hasn't been identified or a suspect, or you got a cold case with no leads on a suspect. So this covers everything. So we just want you guys to know this is going to be a big thing. Jonas, let me turn it over to you. Just really talk about the system so people understand why it's really big and why it's great. Not just because you designed it, but because it's really, I think, novel. And then we're going to let Jake the geek drive it from there.
Yeah, this really is a novel, innovative approach to solving cases. And at Wipfli, we partner with organizations that resonate with their mission and what they want to do. And we couldn't find a better one than this. In its simplest form, we're trying to solve cases out there. And when Open Unsolved and Morgan came to us, they came with the use case behind figuring out a way to connect law enforcement with the public. We wanted to reduce the time, the cost, the complexity of solving investigations. And we wanted to build a system that wouldn't require Open Unsolved to manage all this or to be an intermediary, but be a smooth pass through. So those law enforcement agencies and the citizens could connect to each other. With that, Morgan hit on it a bunch of times, but putting privacy, putting security first really is at the top of our mind. So what you're going to see today is a core data architecture that we've been able to build, which allows a law enforcement agency to come in, list a case in its totality, and not just one sheet of information that you may see many times, but to layer in details, to list out the people, the vehicles, the locations, all the aspects of a case that would be presented, and then connect that to citizens with where they've been, where they live in their pattern of life to make those collisions happen so we can hopefully match people up against these cases and solve them. What you're going to see today is an initial pilot. It's a initial launch of this system, and it's something that's built to expand upon. So we've got a lot of big ideas in mind. And when you think about how we match citizens with cases out there, right now we're doing it in terms of location, but the sky's the limit, especially with modern technology, with AI, thinking between everything with social media to case details. There's plenty of ways that we could do this matching and make it more and more intelligent. What's also on this roadmap is a mobile application to take what you're going to see in the website and put it in the palm of your hand on an app. This week, we're doing our user acceptance testing, which what that means is gathering a key group of users together, really letting them hammer on this system. And what we hope to find are a ton of improvement ideas things that we can put on the roadmap and pursue to make this better and better. So I'm excited to show you guys this. Jake is kind of itching to walk you through the demo. And Morgan, I'll turn it back to you and then over to him.
Yeah, last thing, we're gonna let Jake go. Guys, the way this came about, I was after my last executive position was Bell Labs. If you guys, though, you law enforcement people out there, FirstNet, my team built the very first public safety broadband network at Alcatel-Lucent. We had to lay off everybody, so I'm sitting here thinking, what can I do different? Thing hit me. 5 things connect us to every case: date, location, time, demographics, relation. So what you're going to see now is Jake diving in. We can actually do things to connect people based on demographics, like are they a yoga instructor, or are they a fitness instructor, are they in the construction trades, as well as location. Location is our primary thing. So with that being said, Jake, the floor is yours, buddy. Take us home.
Awesome. Thank you. Appreciate the intro here and getting us set up. I am going to do a little bit of my own to kind of get us level set here, get our minds right of what we're looking at, what you're seeing here. So today I'm going to walk through 2 primary scenarios with scenarios within those. And what that looks like is we have the entire platform, the HOLMES platform. And inside of that, you've got the law enforcement side and you've got the citizen side. In the first scenario here, we're looking at that law enforcement side. And to make things easier, to help you drive through an example, I am going to really drive this whole ship as Alina Marquez. You can think of Alina here as a detective, a police officer, the law enforcement side. She's working for an agency, and that is why she's using this portal. As she's coming through and using this portal in her day-to-day, you can think of it as she's using it to submit cases, review tips, follow up on investigative leads, and really just help her solve those open and unsolved cases. And so this is what she is seeing. So as I walk through these scenarios and these steps, you can think of this as her day-to-day, what you would see from this law enforcement side. Later on the second half of the demo, I will walk through the citizen portion. I'll make it very clear there's another persona there as well. That will be the citizen Jordan Whitmore. I'll make it very clear as we're changing over so you know what we're looking at and what scenarios I'm kind of walking through. But everything you're going to see here in about the next 10 minutes is all the law enforcement side. I will say we're doing this pretty high level here. There is a lot of behind the scenes magic happening, all of the logistical stuff that is going on and how this platform works. We're not going to get into that today. So if you have questions, if you have other pieces of interest, use the chat, use the Q&A, and Morgan and or Jonas will get back to you as I'm walking through this. So let's get started here. Like I said, Elena Marquez here is my persona 1. She is my law enforcement official, and we have already gone through, I have registered, I've come into my portal access, I've gotten everything I need, and I am on my front dashboard here. As Elena, I have already used this system for a little bit, and so I have a number of cases. How I'm going to review those cases and look at my different connections for those is I'm actually going to come into Manage Cases, and that will open up this screen. Here you can see I've got a plethora of information already to look at here. My assigned cases are all of those cases assigned to me, Elena, the law enforcement official that is assigned to these specific cases. Because I'm also connected to my agency though, and there are multiple people within the agency using this, I can also see all of those other cases that are connected through the agency, not necessarily assigned to me, but I'm able to see the overall case records of what is going on within the agency to also be able to review, look at them, and get what I need from there. But to start here, under my assigned cases, like I said, these are all of those cases that were assigned directly to me, whether I, as Elena, created these cases or they were created by another user, an administrative user, and assigned over to me. These are now in my bucket of cases. You'll see here, I've got a status field. Not all of these cases are complete. They're not necessarily always submitted. If I am working on something and it's in progress, it will remain there. It's not until that approved status that it's actually becoming available for the citizens in the public viewing, where they can then connect with this case, leave those tips, and connect with the law enforcement. Spoke briefly about the all cases, but like I said, this is really that bird's eye view of all the cases then created and related to your agency. I could, as Elena, come in here and view these different cases, but what I'm going to focus on for our demo here is my own assigned case. I want to see what I can do with my case besides just creating it. How can I go back to edit it, view my different connections, and even more importantly, view the tips that are coming from those connections made. So from this screen, there's a number of things I can do, right? I could create the case new. For our sake of time here today, I'm not going to walk you through creating an entire case, but what this does look like, the different stages and the steps that you'd be going through as this law enforcement is Elena would come here into this case, create her case, and go through each and every one of these steps, right? From an administrative standpoint, what is the agency? What are those case numbers, et cetera? Coming into case details, which is what you're actually seeing on my screen, I can come through here and add all of that information in here and keep stepping through my case creation. Who are the persons of interest, the vehicles, the locations, which we'll get to in a minute, of the importance of that, the various case crimes that are associated to the crime, photos and documents, and then I will publish that case.
Hey, Jake,
So
real quick.
Go ahead.
Just stay on that. You folks are going to see a thing that says non-public case links. That's only for you to see, right? Those are things you might say, like you see there, it's intranet. It's something that I want from an investigative standpoint. The only thing that the public sees are things where you put under public case links. So just think of it as an investigative file, but non-public means only for your use. Anybody else that shared the case can see it. Public case links that when this case goes live, these are the links that will be shown on the case card.
Yep, perfect. And you'll see in this example here under the non-public case links, I've got intranet links. So different things I could attach to this that I want to review later, pieces that are relevant to this. As Morgan just said, as I go into the second half of this demo and I show you from the citizen side, you'll actually see these public case links that were shared with that citizen. They can then go in, review this different information, and go to those links from their end. So creating a case, I can submit a case, I can add all that information in. What are the other pieces that I can do? As I come back to my manage case screen, there's a couple of different key areas here, right? I can always go back to my case, edit it, change information, update information as it comes in and it's relevant. I can view the case, which will be a read-only version of that case. That is great because I can actually take my case that I've submitted and it's been approved, and I could share this link and this URL off to another member of my team, let them be able to review this, but not give them those editing rights to actually jump in and change anything about this case. But if you're working collaboratively here, you could change, or you could share this URL over, but they're not able to change or edit any of those pieces. Connections is what I wanted to get to in a few minutes. These are all based on locations. So I'll speak to locations a little bit and then show you what these connections actually look like. But this is kind of the bread and butter of the connection between the law enforcement and the citizen side of this. As I'm entering locations, you'll see this is step, number 5 of the overall case. And as you're entering these case locations, they're obviously any case location prevalent to the case. So you'll see a few examples here. I've got incident location, the last known scene, and a couple of investigative interests. All 4 different locations, I put these in as I was entering my case. Now, where this is the bread and butter is this is really beginning the connections from the law enforcement side and their interest to the citizen. You'll see as I enter these in on this side, there's magic happening behind the scenes that as a citizen, I will also enter in my points of interest, and those interconnections between them is what's going to start populating what we've called connections. Not going to dive too deep into the actual connections themselves, the locations themselves, but what is important about this is there's a set radius on here, and it's essentially a bounding area of interest for this location. So of this location, my incident location, I, as Elena here, am interested in seeing any connections or making any connections of interest to citizens within 25 miles of my incident. Where that becomes very important is, let me go back to the screen. I'm back on my managed case screen here. And if I click into connections, I am brought to this. Looks the same as what you just saw. It should. It is my 4 locations, my case locations. And what I want to now see is, have I, for my incident location, made any connections to interests or to citizens' interest of their locations? So incident location is here. If I drop down and I view my map, it brings me into this screen and this view. What you're seeing here is the location that I wanted to look at is the incident location, and you're seeing 2 types of pins, right? You're seeing the red pin. These are all citizen locations, and you're seeing the blue pin. That is my case location that I am reviewing here. That is the incident in this example. As I scroll in, I put that very specific center module in my location. That was that address. That was pinned on this map. You would have seen the radius. That is the 25-mile radius I set. And now what it is finding in the background is the different connections between my case location and citizen locations, and it's forming those connections. So what you're seeing here is my incident location, and all of these red dots are the citizen locations. You will notice there is no personal information shared on these maps. So I've got location 1, 2, 3, 5, etc. What you do see is they will start actually grouping them together. So if I was a law enforcement official coming in here, of course, these are all points of interest to me and maybe a piece that I want to investigate. But what looks most interesting to me is this location 1. Getting into the central Cody here has actually 4 citizen locations. You'll notice I scroll closer, it is taking a centroid of all of those locations. It is not giving me a personal address or anything that the citizen is sharing. I don't see their name. I don't see their address. I don't see any of that personal information.
Hey, and Jake, real quick too, on something like that, it could also be that somebody who's a user put that in as a place I used to live and they don't live there anymore. They live in Virginia now, but they would still get a notification that you might be connected to this case because in the search radius, you were connected to this case because you used to live in an area within the search radius.
Correct. Correct. And I'll speak to this even more on the citizen side when I actually enter the citizen locations. But to Morgan's point here, it works both ways, and it doesn't need to be necessarily an active location where I am today. It doesn't mean, I could have put a location in months ago. I used to live here. I took a vacation in this spot. I'm putting in these different locations, and those connections are forming over time. So when I say it can happen in 2 ways, is as a case is created by a law enforcement official, it's going to connect to any of the existing citizen locations that were already entered, and vice versa. Citizen locations might already exist, or I'm creating them new to an existing case, and they're making those connections both ways. So either way, as a case is being created or a citizen location is being created, we're making those connections over time. And as Morgan said, as these cases start to roll in more and more, these connections only increase.
Yeah, Jake, we got one question. Trish asked, how are these red dots appearing? And Trish, Jake's going to show that in the next portion of the demo, but essentially those are citizens listing their previous locations. So as you said, that could be a previous employer or where they lived, but you'll see that once we get to the citizen portal.
Yes, we'll see that as we get to the citizen portal and I add those locations in on that second example. What I will point out while we're seeing it here is that I kind of already alluded to it. Location 6, for example, only had 1 connection. It picked this spot, it picked this pin in a central area that is not saying the citizen who put in location 6 lives directly in this spot that it's pinpointing to. They are somewhere within probably a quarter mile of this, and it is pinpointing to the centroid, the central area of that entire radius. So not only are they not getting that personal information, they're also seeing a central area and location that citizen location is pinpointing to.
Hey, Jake, real quick. For some of the people, we just had somebody in here, Tammy Martin says, this is very similar to the IBRS used in Virginia. It's the incident-based reporting system. It's a Virginia version of the National Incident-Based Reporting System, NIBRS. The difference is that NIBRS and IBRS like that, those are law enforcement only systems. There is no way for the public to participate in that system. What Jake's showing you here is the police on one side putting in their case and case information. You'll see what the citizens do on the other side, and you'll see why this is more powerful because it's actually the citizens putting in information that's relevant to them in order to make connections to these cases. So NIBRS and IBRS, they're law enforcement only, and that's been the downfall of the systems, right? This is the first truly collaborative system between the police on one side, the public on the other, and we're putting all the dots in one place. Back to you, Jake. As I say,
Perfect.
back to you
Thank
in the
you.
studio.
Thank you. So that is one example of these locations. Now, what can happen as I scroll out here, you'll see a lot of locations because I put a set radius of 25 miles. A second example of what this looks like is on another location. Maybe I only went down to 1 mile, and now I'm not necessarily seeing these connections at this point in time, but it shows you how if I either increase my radius or decrease my radius, those different connections Maybe they'll mean more, obviously, as I decrease that radius to me, but I'm shifting my different number of connections. So very, very important, especially in a more urban area, a large city, that is, you're looking at setting that different radius, you can actually control on the law enforcement side how many different connections, how many citizens am I actually connecting with and sending these notifications out to, instead of making sure I don't have a plethora of connections and citizens that maybe aren't giving me everything I want, or maybe it's irrelevant as it's getting too large for the area that I'm looking for.
Hey, real quick, I want to pop in too while we're talking about this. Had a question from Melissa McDermott. Can these cases include both adult and juveniles, or just adults? Look, we're a nonprofit. We are not subject to the same CJIS rules. So if you have a case involving a juvenile, if you don't want to publish the juvenile's name because your laws prohibit you doing that, that's fine. But if the juvenile's name is already in the public and it's something any member of the public could find, that's great. But if you're really trying to find them, let's say they're a missing juvenile or an at-risk one, chances are you probably want to see people see their name and picture. But remember, this is not, we don't store any CJIS information at all. So if you, my saying is, if you can't put it into a press release, we can't use it. So if you're prohibited by law, regulation, department policy from even identifying a juvenile, then you can't put it into the system. But if you can, now we can, because we're not bound by the same rules. So if we see a missing a juvenile, like say the Aware Foundation, we could help them by putting that into our system and get the word out. But we want to collaborate. We want to work with law enforcement, not against them.
Absolutely. Anything else on the connections or maps you want to talk to, Morgan? Otherwise, I'll continue on.
This, guys, I just can't emphasize enough. This is the magic sauce. Real quick, just to give you guys a brief idea why locations and connections are so important. One of the things I worked on the largest law enforcement information sharing program inside justice. It's called One DOJ now. It was called the Law Enforcement Information Sharing Program. This was response to 9/11. I ended up briefing the Deputy Attorney General, the Attorney General, in preparation for the 9/11 Commission hearings. And in the research, here's what I found. In April, one of the 19 hijackers, Nawaf al-Hazmi, was stopped by the Oklahoma Highway Patrol, written a ticket. In August, Nawaf al-Hazmi was put on a State Department watch list. Why would you put somebody on a watch list who's already in the country? We had 2 dots there we could use to connect the case. I went out and briefed the CJIS division of FBI on the sniper case. I showed them from a data standpoint how many people have contact with law enforcement. By the time we got down, there were only 97 vehicles in the capital region who had their tags run through NCIC, the National Crime Information Center, 2 or more times. Out of those 97, 3 were Chevy Caprices, 1 belonged to Malvo and Muhammad, and 4 times a dark-colored or burgundy-colored Caprice was seen leaving the scene of a shooting. We had all the information. We had the dots. We just couldn't collect the dots. One of the things that drives us are locations in common. Real estate, location, 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 locations in common. That's why this map, the ability to visualize. What happened if you put a case in and all of a sudden you got 10 connections in Ottumwa, Iowa? That would be what Johnny would call a clue, right, Johnny? We would call that a clue. You would go, what's in Ottumwa, Iowa that maybe I ought to reach out to the Ottumwa Police Department or the Iowa Bureau of Investigation and find out, hey, what's going on there? So this is designed to give you visibility to something you've never seen before. Sorry, Jake, back to you.
Yep, no problem. Appreciate you adding the context in there. So as I shift away from the maps and connections, the next piece here is you're saying, great, I've got the visual, I've got the connections. What about the tips? I need citizens to also help us out here. That is also that interconnection, right? You've got the locations and you can see these different points of interest, but we're also looking for these tips to be submitted by citizens. So as I come back into my dashboard, I've got this other second area here of manage tips. And what that looks like as I dive in is now I can also see a plethora, an entire list of these different tips as they're being submitted really in real time. I have, what this looks like is I have submitted a case, I have a case location, there is a citizen location that matched to it. Notification went out to the citizen, they hopefully went in, reviewed the case, and left a tip here. So you can see there's a couple of different examples of tips that have come in. It gives me a little bit of information right off the top. If it's a point of interest that I want to dive deeper into, I can open these tips, review it, and go through it in detail.
And real quick here too, Jake, just so you guys know, this is the point at which citizens can say it's like Crime Stoppers. They could have information to solve your case, and they have 3 choices. I can do nothing, I can say something anonymously, or I can say something with attribution, and we enable all of that on this. They can either leave it anonymously or with attribution, a way to contact them.
Absolutely. That's actually a good example here. Number 4, you're seeing we've got reporters are the submitters of the tips. Jordan, Tobias, Marissa all didn't care. They were fine to not be anonymous. But we did have a tipper here that wanted to be anonymous. And as you're seeing here, their name doesn't appear. Their name is wiped. It doesn't matter if they're signed into the citizen portal or not on their side. It wipes their name. It doesn't include that. And it keeps that anonymity. So they're really not attaching their name to anything when they select yes to that.
And there is no way we're going to give you that. I'm just being upfront, folks. There's no way we're going to give you the information on anybody, IP addresses, nothing, because as you guys know, the first time you out a confidential informant, the first time you out a tipster and you dox them or you put their information out there, you ruin the credibility of your efforts and the system. So we absolutely will not provide you any information on a tipster. Even if they give you their information, you get nothing from us because we have to preserve the integrity and the privacy of the people leaving tips. Trust is something, it's hard to gain, but it's easily lost. So we have to build trust in this system.
Absolutely. Anything else on tips, Morgan?
Yep, looks good.
Okay. Then lastly, here on the law enforcement side, so we can make sure there's time for the citizen and how this is connecting. This isn't for everyone. This is for more of those administrative users of this, but you do have a managed department piece to this. What this looks like is you're first coming in and getting approved to get access to the overall portal here. You'll see here, I'm in as VACP, I'm entering all my information, but what's even most important here is there's contacts and there are individuals that I can add in to make sure that they're also seeing this information. We can interconnect, we can collaborate, they can post cases, I can post cases, we can share them, we all have access to the same information. So there's nothing super fancy about this, no real bells and whistles, just be able to interconnect and really control the team that is within this platform for your different agencies.
And as Jake, as we close out on this, we had a question in from Marcella
Sure.
Scott, but is there a way to import the information instead of manually entering? Folks, this is the crawl, run, walk, or crawl, walk, run phase, as Johnny and I were saying yesterday. Right now, a lot of this will be entering, but this is the secret weapon are your citizen volunteers, the people. They don't need to have access to your systems. By the way, we'll talk about this too. I don't want to pick on my friends, the U.S. Marshals, because my neighbor is in charge of the Criminal Intelligence Bureau. Her and I have been working on this, but this is a standard flyer that comes from the U.S. Marshals and the FBI. Don't get me wrong. We're going to pick on the FBI as equally, right? But you get this. There's only 2 locations on here. The town where the crime happened, where she was wanted, and then where the body parts were found as she dismembered her boyfriend and dumped him near Hanover, Ohio on I-75. It only took me 2 minutes through the use of Grok and some web searching. I found an additional 12 locations that we could put in there. This is something citizens can do, citizen case coordinators. We'll talk about that the next piece, but this is your secret weapon. You can get, there will be a lot of people who say, look, I will do open source research. I will find this and I will help you enter cases. There's things that you can do to be able to scale up, but right now it is going to be manual. The development of an API to be able to pull in information for your records management system, that's on the roadmap, but that takes money. So if you're out there, DOJ, we would definitely love to use more money to do this, and Kelly will track every penny of it. All right, Jake,
Awesome.
You ready for the citizen side, or are we done with the
Yes.
law enforcement side?
We are done with the law enforcement. I'm going to show this. Keep this in mind. I was speaking to how important these case locations are. I am going to switch over to citizen, but as my citizen example, you're going to see the citizen is going to connect back to these case locations we set in Park, Wyoming. So keep these in mind. These are what we're actually going to end up connecting to, but that is the end of the law enforcement. And so we will jump in to the citizen side now. You're going to notice visually, it already looks different. I'm going to see different things. I'm not going to have the same types of accesses. Obviously, I'm not creating cases. I am reading, reviewing, leaving tips, and adding my locations. So I'm starting here on the profile. Again, you can imagine that Jordan Whitmore here, our citizen, has already registered. He has just come into this portal. And why I want to show this profile is you do see first, last, email, mobile. None of this is absolutely required besides the email as you register. I willingly put in my first name, last name, but even as I do leave tips, I can still pick that yes to remain anonymous, and then the tip will remove my first and last name from that, and my name won't be connected to it at all. But either way, I've decided to register and create myself an account. I could still view cases without an account. The caveat and the real perk to having the account as a citizen is to make sure I'm being connected to cases, I'm receiving notifications, and I'm being pinged and notified when new cases are coming in of interest. So the most important part here is I've got my account set up. I'm going to come in right away. As Jordan, I have a lot of different locations. Again, you can imagine I've already been in the system quite a lot. I have moved quite a bit. Maybe I travel for work, and I have a lot of locations across the nation here, anywhere from Alaska to Texas to Michigan to Wisconsin. What I am more interested in right now to really help you guys form this connection is I have, several Park Wyoming locations. Maybe we can say the example of I lived there for the last 5 years, and I've explored a lot of Park City here. And so all of these locations, I've entered them in. And as I've entered in these locations, what is happening in the background is that connection that we've spoken to a couple of times here and how important that is. So as I add those locations in, and it's doing its magic in the background, Jordan will actually be notified a couple different ways. One, you'll see here on any of these case cards, and I should say these are all my connected cases at this point. I've been connected to these cases because my location matched to one of the law enforcement locations. So as I already showed you, we had a lot of different locations: Florida, Arizona. Most importantly, the example I'm looking at here is Wyoming. Because I was connected to this, I would have been notified that A, it was a priority case. That was signified by the fact that it was this red star here. As a law enforcement official entered this case, they would have selected, is this a priority case? Is it not? If it is, I will not only be connected to it as Jordan, but I'll also get an email immediately to say, not only is this case, new and relevant to you, but it is a high priority. Take a look at it, review it, and leave a tip. So all of these cases, like I said, I am seeing these specifically to me as Jordan because I entered locations that matched to these, and I fell within the radius that I showed you on that map previously. So in one of those 4 locations on that case, I fell into at least one of those radiuses. As the law enforcement official either changed those or updated them or increased them, it increases my chance to gain more case cards here and actually be able to be attached and assigned to more of these cases. And again, each and every time that's happening, I'm getting a notification for it. Go ahead, Morgan.
And let me add in something, Jake. This has been the bane of my existence and dealing with folks. A lot of times, imagine having to scroll 18,000 sites every day looking, am I connected to a case, or what do I know about this case? Think about all the effort that's been placed upon the citizen. What we're saying is you come in one time, put in locations that are relevant to you. It could be where you lived, where you worked, where you went to school, whatever it is. And then the system works behind the scenes that every time a case is entered, it's like DNA. You put DNA into the system, it looks to see, is there a match? And then if there is, it makes a connection. This way, you're going to know instantly if you have a connection to a case. You no longer have to follow 20 different websites. You can still follow them for fun, but what I'm saying is you don't have to find out or scroll through 500 photographs on a cold case database site to see, do I know anything about them? This is about extracting all of that information, putting it into a format so we can connect you to the cases and connect the cases to you. You might have your locations in there and there's no connection, but then a week later, law enforcement says, hey, I've got a case, and they put it in there, and guess what? Now you've got a connection. So it works both ways.
Yeah, thank you for that, Morgan. Yeah, as Morgan said, to elaborate on that, like it does work both ways, and it works continuously, right? So I can add in locations, and it's going to keep not assigning, but I should say connecting the law enforcement locations and the case locations to myself. So it's not something I have to keep continuously updating, but if you want to expand your locations and expand the amount of case that you're connecting to, you can continue to do that. So what that looks like is the citizen entering a new location. So Jordan coming in and entering new locations and having that match against the existing cases in those locations that already exist on the law enforcement side, or the citizen having existing locations, as Morgan already said, and then one or more of the new cases and their locations connecting with a pre-existing citizen location. So it works both ways, and it works in tandem, and it just continues to grow as more cases are added. Okay.
Hey, real quick, Jonas, too. This is something some of folks might be seeing in the chat. We had a couple good questions. William Wittenbrook asked, are people, can they connect wearables, or garments so they can automatically locate stuff? we've actually had long discussions about this. The issue is not technology. The issue is privacy and policy as to whether or not we want to be collecting certain types of data, because then you do start getting into personally identifiable information. A friend of mine ran the Directorate of Science and Technology at CIA. You know what they did? They tracked people for a living, high value targets. And one of the ways they did it was through mobile devices, things like that. You know, you could establish patterns of life, patterns of activity. So we get that. We understand it. We're very aware of that. It's not a technology issue, as Jonas said. Jonas had a great reply talking about what we can do. It's really the policy around it, the privacy. Do we want to enable that at some point? So that'll be a more of a ethical and a legal discussion as opposed to a technology discussion.
Sure. So we can picture now at this point, I have gotten an email. I've been notified. This new aggravated assault case from Park, Wyoming has popped up in my connected cases. What I want to do now is actually read and view more on this case. So as I click in to read more, it will bring me into the case details. This should all start to look familiar now. On that law enforcement side, I was adding in, what type of case is this? What was the crime? The details that from the law enforcement side I've added to this. All of those links that Morgan and I had talked to previously are now showing here for the public eye. And then any photos and documents that I also put into that case are now attached to it and viewable from the citizen side as well. I can go through here. I won't go through each and every one of these steps, but you can see as all of that information was filled out on the case, that's now viewable on the side. And then obviously the hope and the end goal here is that I'm coming in as a citizen and I'm adding a tip to this case. Again, you can see there's a lot of different steps here. Do you want to be anonymous in this tip? Yes or no? And then go through all the different steps of leaving tip information, location information, anything that you can help obviously add to the tip.
Hey, and one quick notification, if you pull that back up real quick, I just want to show people, just show the ad tip. One of the things we did right there at the very top, we default to yes. Do you want to be anonymous? The person leaving the tip has to consciously opt in. They have to select no in order to give their information, and then the rest will pop up. So by default, your anonymity, you can't accidentally provide information unless you click on, do you want to be anonymous? No. And then you'll see at the bottom too, it'll say, okay, what's your information? We want to talk to you. There you go, right there. Contact name, email, phone number.
Yep. And if you do, you still have even the option to say, no, I'm okay not remaining anonymous, but also not provide contact information. So you could have your name attached to it, but still just say, I still don't want you to reach out to me. I don't want you to have a way to contact me. There's a lot of different options in here. But yes, to Morgan's point here, your default is yes, and you have to specifically
Pro
select
tip,
no.
if you don't want the cops to reach out to you, don't put your name in there. All right.
Absolutely. So then after I submit this tip, I can go back and review these tips, say, now I'm curious of what I've put out there. I don't know if I've put one out there. What are the tips that I have entered in? And what you're seeing here is different cases. What was the crime type? What were the details of that case to give me just a refresher? And what was the actual tip that I left? You can see here, even when I selected yes to the anonymous tip, it still is attached to me so I can review it. But on that law enforcement side, if you remember when we were in the managed tips dashboard, it's not giving them any contact information. They're not able to see that it was actually submitted by me. Regardless if I was logged in, my name is not attached to it. It just still shows on my portal for my own sake. Okay. And then last but not least here, these are all, everything we've showed you so far is really what's going on actively. I've got locations, I'm getting notifications, I'm looking at my own connected cases, but it doesn't mean you have to stop there. There are two other spots that you as a citizen could go into, and that is active cases. You'll see here, there's more cards on the screen. There's more cases now viewable. I actually have a couple of pages I can look through. I can also search by different crime types to really filter it down and see what I'm looking for. These are all of the cases, right? All of the cases that are in the platform and in the system are viewable to every citizen, regardless of their location. This means I can go into each of these, review all of them that I want to, anything that interests me, and potentially also leave that tip. Another way to do it is if I come up to search cases, this button, search cases, same idea, same view. It looks exactly the same, but now what's been added here is I can also search by zip code. So maybe I'm in Milwaukee for a few months or I'm moving there. I can also now search by, zip code within Milwaukee and say, I wonder if there's any cases in that area. And it looks like there is. There is one case. It's not necessarily connected to me. I didn't add that as one of my locations, but I could still search specifically in an area or a zip code and see what cases exist in that area. And now, again, I can read, I can click in, learn more information, and leave a tip.
And by the way, that is a real name. His last name is actually Innocent, even though he's wanted. This guy's a real wanted criminal.
And that is the walkthrough of the citizen side. So Morgan, I don't know if there's questions or there's any other pieces you want to call out while we're here.
Yeah, I want Kelly to hop in here for a second. As you guys are thinking of, if you have any more questions, I'll stick around. We'll do Q&A. Just know that a recording will be made available of this. We will be doing our beta testing here pretty shortly. So make sure if you're one of our beta testers, you reply to the email. But I know, Kelly, you had a couple thoughts you wanted to make sure we shared with everybody.
Sure. Thank you, Morgan. Jake, thank you for walking us all through those two kind of sides to the portal. Hopefully there's some genuine interest in this important tool. I'm guessing one of the questions is, what does it cost? For law enforcement and citizens both, there is no cost. Our vision for this is that it's cost-free for solving crimes and advocating for victims of crimes. And we're in the very arduous but important task of fundraising through various means. As a 501c3, obviously we get donations, which are tax exempt. We're working with both local, state, and federal officials to carve out funding in order that the system continues to always be free for law enforcement. Of course, the cost for you then as an agency is to allocate human capital to keep the system going. It is a part of the roadmap, as Morgan outlined, to build APIs that will talk to your record management system so that there's not doing a ton of data entry. But for the foreseeable future, obviously, it's a prioritization of the most important cases that you have and getting that case information entered either through citizen volunteers or light duty admin type officers that are going to be well informed about how to utilize the system. But fundamentally, our goal is that this system is and will always be free for law enforcement. The last thing we want to do is tax any agency as they try to advocate for victims of crime. So no cost is the goal. And certainly that comes through the support of our local officials, both at the state, local, and federal level. So we appreciate you guys getting the word out on the nonprofit status as we continue to build it out. And certainly, as Morgan said, if you have any questions, you can reach out to us either at Morgan or Kelly at openunsolved.org. Anyone else have any other questions financially? I'm certainly happy to answer it now, or if you think of something later, certainly reach out. But I appreciate it. Thank you so much for being a part of this.
And you noticed how Kelly said, if you have any financial questions, call me. Don't get me involved. I don't want to touch. I don't want to touch the money. So real quick question. We actually had somebody ask, couple things. Somebody asked about VICAP. So VICAP, for you non-law enforcement types, it's the Violent Criminal Apprehension Program. I was actually one of the people that originally went through it in 1985, went through some of the serial crime profiling training. We have a field in there for putting in your VICAP number. But VICAP, we don't want you to fill out an 85-page form, that's the current, I believe, VICAP case. But we actually will be doing some VICAP light type of things to be able to make connections between those things. So Tia asked if we can speak more on the citizen case coordinator role. Yes, we can, because we still have time and I talk fast. Here's what makes this unique. I can create, which I've done, let's say, a group of citizens, and we are collaborating with U.S. Marshals to work this out, but I could create a group of citizens to say, look, you are going to be our top 15 targeting group. So I will get a group of citizens, we'll vet them to make sure, hey, you're not the criminal we're looking for. And if you are, just turn yourself in, we'll split the 25,000. But we'll make sure we can put together a group of, let's say, 10 people. 10 people could come together. We could assign them the top 15 cases, have them do all the research, and it's called a case coordinator. You're not an investigator. You're not out there to run down leads and knock on doors. What you're to do is to take, for example, this sheet of paper like this and turn it into something like this with links, with data, things that add to the richness of the case file so that we can actually add people to it. Law enforcement, if you're listening in, you have your volunteers and service program, the VIPS program. You could actually bring people in vet them and have them work inside your agency to enter the cases, get access to data or give them access to the data they need only to fill this out. So there's a role for volunteers. I mean, Kelly, you brought this up too, and I think Johnny did too. You've got people on light duty. You have new hires waiting to go to the academy. You've got all sorts of resources out there that you could put them to work doing this. But the citizen case coordinator will be one of two things. It'll be a specialized group that is monitored and run by me initially, and as we grow, we'll have some other folks that do that, or it'll be a group inside a law enforcement agency. Here's the thing. You don't need to be behind the firewall. You don't have to have a police email account. This is all web-based. This is all hosted by us, so everything can be done on the outside. It's just putting in this information and this information like this to complete the case so that we can get that. So will such as RTCF be able to push the app or a special number to solicit tips for a specific case? Got this from Brandy Brown. So funny you should mention that. One of the things long-term, the development of this is called a major case feature, right? And one of my friends is Ed Davis, the commissioner of the Boston Police, when I was doing a podcast called Game of Crimes. Actually, we had Ed on, we talked about the Boston Marathon bombing. They got so many pictures and stuff, but it was kind of difficult to submit the information, put it all in one place. So what we're thinking of is we'll be able to, where'd my phone go? Oh, almost had anxiety, couldn't find my phone. You would have something like this, and then all of a sudden, let's say that you have a major case, an active shooter or a big crime, it would push out to you and it would say, hey, no, just like a notification, right? Hey, we've had a major case. If you are in this area or connected to this or know anything about it, here's where you can leave a tip. Here's what you can do. Or let's say that you were downtown, like watching the Tsarnaev brothers, and you've got pictures of them. You could immediately put it into that. And for you law enforcement types, don't worry. This will spin up a enclave in a CJIS protected environment so that it's CJIS compliant, FedRAMP compliant, but you'll be able to spin that up and put hundreds, thousands of pictures, videos automatically into your environment and sort through, apply analytics to it, things like that. So there will be a major case feature of it. But again, it's one of those things. I've got a whole proposal, 15 pages. Actually, we're meeting with a member of Congress tomorrow to talk about this. If we get the right kind of money, this is something, I have a 3-year plan of what we're going to build over the next 3 years. That's absolutely part of that case. Philip Chu asks, OPP, by the way, one of my buddies retired from the South Porcupine Detachment, Ontario Provincial Police up in Timmins, home of Shania Twain. Can Canadian cases also be added? Not yet. That is actually on the roadmap, and that's a great question. We have to own our own backyard first. We got to figure this out first. Because of the issue of location, like postal codes, I've talked to my friends at Scotland Yard, New Scotland Yard. I've talked to the Counterterrorism Command there. There's so many different ways addresses are handled around the globe. So we're going to start in the U.S., but I would say, Philip, if we get the proper funding, again, everything's funding. If we get this right, it's going to get down there. So we've got about 2 minutes left. I think this thing will probably kick us off. But hey, guys, any final words? Kelly, anything else from you?
No, just again, appreciate everyone being a part of the demo here today, and we look forward to reaching out and communicating with you in the future as we have more opportunity, particularly our beta testers. And certainly always feel free to reach out to Morgan or I if you need any information or just have general questions. We're certainly here to support you. Thank you again.
Johnny, got a last final thought?
No, just from the law enforcement side, please use me as a resource if you need anything you need from me. I answer almost all calls that aren't solicitors. So just feel free to use me in any capacity that helps push this program. Brandy, to your question, I'm going to talk to Morgan a little bit more about that after we're done here.
And I want to thank the guys from Whipfly. We've come a long ways with this, and we've got some more exciting things coming. So, but I want you to, we'll stay engaged. We have your email addresses. We are going to go through some extensive testing, make sure this is ready to go, ready to rock and roll. Then we're going to be rolling it out, hopefully the end of August. Again, content first, user second. We have to have content to connect on. You might say, what happens if I put a case in and it's closed? Well, then close it. But we're going to walk through some training. I'm developing training right now. It's so simple, folks. If you can surf a web page, you're going to be able to enter data into this and collect leads. So, but I want to thank Jake and Jonas for doing this. I want to thank Chesterfield County Police. And I saw that the Colonel Carpenter, by the way, he was a major when this project started working with us. He's been our champion. He got Lieutenant Colonel and he's the chief. I don't want to take responsibility for it, but I think there's a clear link between being involved with this project and getting promoted. Chief Gatz, same with you out there. Dana and Aaron from Virginia Chiefs, and you folks from the DOJ Cops Office, thank you so much. Thank you guys to Whipfly. I feel like I'm on a game show and it's wrapping up, but we wanted to be respectful. We are right at the top of the hour. You've got our email addresses in there. Make sure that you reach out to us If you need anything, seriously, and we'll be doing a beta testing, we will keep you apprised. So, hey, guys, I want to thank you very much. We had, I think at our peak, 200 people on out of 300 registered. Not bad. But we thank you guys very much. Get us your information. Get us feedback. We're open to it. We love it. Thank you guys very much. And stay tuned. You're going to hear a lot more things from the National Center for Open and Unsolved Cases as we do some really, this is game-changing stuff. I'm firmly convinced of it. So thank you guys. Everybody out there, stay safe. You people in law enforcement, wear your Kevlar. You citizens, support the police, and we will talk to you guys soon. You guys hang on.